Was flying from Burkina Faso to Algiers. 107 passengers, 6 crew members on board. Disappeared from radar early on.
No immediate sign of foul play. Another controversial execution overnight. Condemned killer Joseph Wood put to death by lethal injection in Arizona. But as NBC's Kurt Gregory reports, it was anything but routine.
Witnesses say condemned inmate Joseph Rudolph Wood gasped for more than an hour and a half. He was finally pronounced dead almost 2 hours after it began.
Arizona Governor Jan Brewer wants a full review of the state's execution process. And can't tear yourself away from your browser? You've got company. A new study says 39% of Americans spend more time socializing online than they do in person. This is NBC News Radio.
Time. It's best found on the weekends and lost in the garage, under the hood, cranking on something. AdvanceAutoParts.com lets you get back to the garage with more time to do what you love. Just buy online and pick up in store 30 minutes later. Plus, order 4 NGK Iridium spark plugs and we'll give you a $10 advance gift card by mail. Advance Auto Parts. Let's get you back to the garage.
Mail-in rebate, void where prohibited. See AdvanceAutoParts.com for details.
Hello.
So your site gave me this credit report card thing. Can I get my actual credit report, like the one the bank sees?
Please hold. Sheesh, I feel like I'm being interrogated over here.
The human is onto us. Send her to that payphone no one ever answers.
Hello? Hello?
Not all credit report sites are equal. Become an Experian.com member to get personalized help and a real credit report with enrollment in Experian Credit Tracker.
Attention homeowners, I'm Jay Farner, president of Quicken Loans, and I have some important information for you regarding the U.S. government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. We've told you about HARP in the past, and more than 3 million homeowners have already taken advantage of this money-saving program. But there are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. And Quicken Loans is here to help you save your money. The home loan experts at Quicken Loans fully understand the HARP guidelines. If you weren't HARP eligible in the past, new guidelines could mean that now you are. Give us a call and we'll give you a Quicken Loans mortgage review. It's simple and easy. And for 4 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Call 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN. Or go to QuickenLoans.com for a mortgage experience that's engineered to amaze.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Payment example excludes taxes and insurance calls. For cost information, equal housing lender license in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranahan.
Greetings and welcome on board the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. I am Mark Lawrence, the host of the show. Across from me, Joe McGranahan, my co-host today, ultra-conservative mayor of Shamokin Dam, free-thinking, natural-born listener that he is. Welcome aboard, sir.
Good morning, Mark. Good to have you here.
Very much appreciated.
Nice you could stop by.
We have a guest. I've been here all morning.
Oh,
sorry.
have you? Okay.
Right. We have a guest in the studio. We're going to talk about antibiotics in a moment, and we'll fully introduce him in one split second. As we turn to my immediate right, we look through the glass and we see the greatest engineer in the basement of the building, and that is Mark Mahoney. He's running the show today. He's learning the ropes to be a producer of WKOK Sunrise and WKOK's On the Mark, so he's on the other side of the glass.
So they're starting him out with us?
Well, no, he's been around. He knows quite a bit. Plus, Kevin is breathing down his neck, so there'll be no mistakes. But he's running the webcam, which is up and running. We invite you to watch our live video feed of the program. You can also use WKOK.com and the Ustream channel as a 24-hour archive, or go to WKOK's YouTube channel, and you can just click to that as from WKOK.com, and you can watch all the archives of the On the Mark program. Lenape Solar email in basket open. Email on the mark at WKOK.com, and in many cases, we'll read your email on the radio. Lenape Solar has 3 main foci. They would just love you to get hooked up with ductless HVAC systems that put a very small unit outside your home. They don't run on 220, they run on 120. 20, and you can run air conditioners at several locations or supplemental heat in your home. Ultra-efficient HVAC from Fujitsu, available at the Lenape Solar. Also, of course, going solar, creating electricity or heat to utilize in your home, and also commercial lighting audits. LenapeSolar.com. GroningerInsurance.com, the main website of our sponsor, the toll-free line, which is open, 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. John, Jim, Paula, Mel, and the rest of the staff at Groninger would love to help you out and make sure that your insurance needs are met, and they, believe it or don't, would be able to prove that your expectations can be exceeded by an insurance company. Groninger Insurance is that place. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, the great big lot with the Lincolns and Kias and all the vehicles over there. And then the Kia dealership itself is over on routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And whether it's a Hyundai, a Kia, a Lincoln car or truck, or a Ford car or truck, they can hook you up at Sunbury Motor Company, sunburymotors.com. Find out what they got in stock. A very current internet trade underway for folks to reserve cars on the web. You see the car on the lot you want, you send them a couple of $100 via your debit or credit card, and that car's waiting for you when you get down there, and then you sign on the dotted line, and then you drive away with the car of your choice. sunburymotors.com. Well, we're very glad. I'm meeting for the first time, but I believe Joe already knows him, but Dr. Chris Darup is here. Folks in and around Middleburg know him well as the family practice doc that's out there, and very informed, as many physicians are becoming increasingly so these days, about antibiotics and what is the appropriate use of them, and I'm going to say misuse, meaning just it's not precisely what was the target and intention. I guess abuse might start to trickle into this, but we're really talking about a prescription drug that is in demand by patients, and I think sometimes doctors just acquiesce and write a prescription to not to appease, but because it may help, and of course maybe it's a placebo effect. So I think I summarized what is a complicated discussion sufficiently. Dr. Chris Darup is here. Welcome aboard, sir.
Good morning.
I really do appreciate you coming in. Is there an easy stepping off point here if we want to talk about antibiotics? Where do we begin? Really the most beneficial drugs that are in wide use in our country.
Fortunately, with the discovery of antibiotics, it's been a big help to society in general. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of new antibiotics coming forward, and that leads us to antibiotic resistance and other difficulties with antibiotics. So that's probably a good place to start, because again, pharmaceutical companies in their so-called pipelines really don't have a lot of new antibiotics in development.
So but are there new ailments to rise up and meet that issue?
There are, and again, antibiotic resistance becomes a major issue. People have heard of the methicillin-resistant Staph aureus or flesh-eating bacteria. That's fairly common. Even our respiratory infections have developed some resistance to today's antibiotics.
So this is all a sort of a natural process, this idea of some viruses or diseases being able to thrive because they're not caught by antibiotics or whatever check nature might have had in mind, and then they continue to grow in prevalence.
Well, that's true, and that's a good differentiation there is between viruses and bacteria. Again, viruses, the body's generally able to ward off on its own over time. And again, unfortunately, in today's society, we like our double cheeseburgers immediately right today, and people don't anticipate being ill for 3 or 4 days. Unfortunately, it may take the body that long to fight off a virus on its own. Oftentimes, bacterial infections likewise may be conquered with our own natural immunity. Sometimes antibiotics are necessary for bacterial infections, and that becomes the discussion, is when to intervene with antibiotics appropriately.
How did the misuse of antibiotics get started?
Well, I think again, we talked before the show even about in the days gone by, people would go to their family doctor with cough or congestion or runny nose and expect something on a prescription pad, some form of penicillin or other antibiotic to help them feel better. Again, unfortunately, studies have shown that whether receiving an antibiotic or not really did not shorten the duration of those symptoms. So now we're starting to realize with the resistance to these antibiotics that unfortunately we're doing more harm than good by providing a penicillin or other antibiotic prescription when it's not really warranted.
Well, when you get resistance, I mean, obviously that's the biggest problem. If it's overprescribed and you keep giving me every time I come into your office, I'm getting an antibiotic, sooner or later I develop a resistance to it. But do you develop a resistance to all antibiotics or just the one you took, or is it more general?
It's generally the antibiotic that is taken. Unfortunately, there are categories of antibiotics. So the penicillin family, for instance, bacteria may develop resistance to the penicillin family, and unfortunately that wipes out a number of different antibiotics, and then we have to move to a different category or class of antibiotics to treat that now resistant antibiotic or bacteria.
So it limits your ability to prescribe as a doctor if the patient has some limitation, and some people are allergic to antibiotics too, are they not?
That's true, and as we mentioned to start the show, there are fewer and fewer antibiotics being produced, so our list of what's available to use becomes shorter and shorter.
How many antibiotics are there, roughly, if you could make a guess?
It's difficult to enumerate. Again, anywhere from the generics to the different variations. Again, the penicillin family has added components. People may have heard of a medicine called Augmentin, which is amoxicillin, but it has a different component to help decrease the resistance to it. So there are variations on certain base antibiotics.
Well, when you go to a doctor and you have an expectation, as you say, that you're going to get some kind of a pill or something's going to take care of you, and as you put it, you want your cheeseburger right away. I agree with that. I think you do want it. But if you take an antibiotic and you don't really need it, other than the fact that you might build up a resistance, is there a danger in it?
Antibiotics, again, are fairly widespread. So people may complain of diarrhea when they take an antibiotic. Well, unfortunately, the antibiotic tries to kill as many bacteria as possible. Again, bacteria in the gut and the intestine are good bacteria, and if they're knocked out, unfortunately, we may develop diarrhea or other symptoms. So as we said, we may be doing more harm than good.
What about from an age standpoint? I mean, is it worse for younger people? If you develop an a resistance to an antibiotic as a young person, does that stay with you all your life?
Generally it does, because again, it isn't so much patient dependent, it's the bacteria that influences the resistance. So young children, again, no one likes a sick child because it's difficult. We don't like to deal with fevers. So children provide a special diagnostic conundrum, so to speak, because we really want to use antibiotics judiciously. But again, a sick child is difficult because they may not hydrate as well as an adult can, and their eating habits tend to go down. But again, judicious use of antibiotics in children in particular, again, is a rising concern.
Well, what about older people? Are there any special health hazards for them over and above the norm?
Health hazards in the older population in particular, again, if they have developed the resistance or allergies throughout their lifetime becomes a problem, because our list of our choices of what antibiotics are plausible to use becomes shorter and shorter.
Well, you know, we talked before the show about drug abuse generally, and the fact that a lot of people today are having, what are they called, farm parties, where they get drugs, marked prescription drugs, take them?
Yeah, PHARM.
PHARM parties, okay.
Relatively rare, but not unheard of.
Well, as far as abuse goes of drugs, I mean, you don't get, there's no high to taking an antibiotic, right? I mean,
no, antibiotics, and unfortunately, we'll have patients come in and ask what they had done for their symptoms, and they'll say, well, I took my spouse's leftover amoxicillin. And again, that in itself is a difficult starting point, because one, if an antibiotic isn't taken for its complete course, another cause for resistance. And then when we try to use it again, it may not be as effective.
I always wondered that. What is there about the time period that's so critical with antibiotics?
I think the important things of taking the full prescription is to ensure that the antibiotic we're targeting is completely eradicated. Because if it's decreased in number or decreased in intensity, symptoms go away and patients stop their antibiotics, then there's, again, a bacteria is a living organism, so it has the potential to mutate and change.
Well, Mark mentioned at the start that you're a member of the Family Practice Group, and you have a lot of offices all over central Pennsylvania, Sunbury, Shamokin Dam, here at Sealands Grove, out in Middleburg where you are, Lewisburg. What do you as a group practice do? I mean, you have meetings about this, and I assume, and discussions about it. What is your practice doing to try and curb this abuse?
We do, and it becomes a very popular item for discussion. Again, every office is individual, but as a group, we try to curtail any improper use of antibiotics fairly readily. Our lab, again, which is also positioned in Middleburg, we develop resistance panels, as hospitals do as well. Resistance as far as any throat cultures. Patients may come in complaining of a sore throat. We run a culture and we'll try to develop any resistance pattern to that. Also, bladder infections will develop a resistance if we see that one antibiotic is no longer working for a particular bacteria.
Well, drug salesmen, I'm sure, come pounding on your door quite frequently. Are there any new exciting antibiotics on the horizon that they're pushing these days?
As we discussed, not very many recently. It's probably have been several years since new antibiotics have appeared. And unfortunately, that leads to some, again, narrowed choices of what are available for different bacterial infections.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here, but boy, I'll tell you what, we're really just starting to dig into the heart of the matter of what is prescription issues that pop up, or drug issues. Prescriptions is the dispensing method, but really this is a big topic. It involves disease resistance, it involves the abuse of drugs, and there's an environmental impact we haven't yet talked about yet, but which has to be sort of brought up in this same conversation. So we're going to do that. We have an email pending, and we're going to read that on the radio, and that email has about 6 questions in it. So
and they're welcome to call in with questions as well, right?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Are you getting to that?
The Groninger Insurance toll-free line is open. You're welcome to call in, and Joe will be more than happy to answer your question, and then they'll let the doctor demur on that as well.
I'll give the wrong answer, then we'll let Dr. Darp give the correct one.
The Groninger Insurance toll-free line is open, 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. We're talking about antibiotics in particular and prescription drugs in general, and the Lenape Solar email in basket populated by notes that were sent to on the mark at WKOK.com. We invite you to send us a note. Our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Now is the time to go to your Kubota dealer and get a brand new Kubota M-Series tractor during Kubota's Gear Up and Go sales event. If you're thinking about a rugged utility tractor and the year-round comfort of a Grand X-Cab, then a new Kubota has your name on it. With a smooth-running diesel engine and IntelliShift transmission, your Kubota dealer is the place to start. Right now, get your own Kubota M-Series tractor for 0 down and 0% financing for up to 60 months. So for a great deal, think orange at the Kubota Gear Up and Go sales event. For more information or to find a participating dealer, go to Kubota.com.
0 down, 0% APR financing for terms up to 60 months on selected equipment now through September 30th, 2014. Not available for rental national accounts or government customers. 0% APR low rate financing not available with instant rebate offers. Financing available through Kubota Credit Corporation USA subject to credit approval. Other exceptions may apply. For more information, call toll-free 1-888-465-8268.
Come on home to convenience. Come on over with style. Come on home to real savings. Service with the real smile.
Hey, why search the newspaper classifieds when the best yard sales are at Kohl's Hardware?
Come on home to Kohl's annual yard sale event for the best prices of the year on seasonal merchandise, overstock items, and closeout products.
Show up early for bargain prices on grills, patio furniture, solar lights, pool toys, lawn and garden merchandise, and more.
Smart yard sale shoppers know that each yard sale is unique, so be sure to shop all 11 Kohl's Hardware locations.
And be sure to shop Kohl's yard sale event often, since the prices keep going down.
Now is the perfect time to buy hand and power tools, fountains, hose carts, statuary, paint, automotive goods, houseware items, and more.
Look for the big white tents at all 11 Kohl's Hardware stores and shop the yard sale. We're right around the corner, right here in your hometown. Come on home to Kohl's.
Come on home to Coles Hardware. Come on home to Coles.
Hi, everybody. Steve Jones from The Steve Jones Show. Josh Moyer of ESPN.com on college football and the Nittany Lions. Today, 3 to 5, News Radio 1070, WKOK.
Welcome back to the KOK Live Telephone Talk Show. So far, so good for Mark Mahoney. His first day ever flying the plane over there. He's in, not the catbird seat, he's at the helm. He's on the bridge of the great ship On the Mark. So we thank him for coming up from his basement domain. And this is what the rest of the building looks like. And that stuff that's on the peripheral walls, that's sunlight coming into the building. So welcome aboard, Mark Mahoney. He's an IT specialist, social media boy. He's just the go-to guy here for all things digital, electronic, and he's, I'm glad to say, going to become part of On the Mark and WKOK Sunrise, and maybe even Steve Jones Show, helping to run the controls. So, perfect job for him. He's a natural-born learner, so we're glad he's over there. Well, we have a guest in the studio. We're wasting the doctor's time with this frivolity. Dr. Chris Darup is here, Family Practice Center, Middleburg. Antibiotics. The question, one of our listeners sends us a note, says, I may be hypocritical in asking this because I'm on a Z-Pack course right now. Quick Wikipedia, Z-Pack, what is that?
Is an antibiotic. Is generally a 5-day course given for oftentimes upper respiratory infections.
All right, this guy thinks he has the Hunta virus. He said that. He doesn't really, but he was sick as a dog for a while there. Anyway, he says, I will only accept antibiotic and any medication for an acute problem, and this is seriously acute now, but I know people will often ask for antibiotics even when a diagnosis is viral. When my wife refused a prescription recently, a doctor was shocked and impressed. He said most patients just want a pill. So reaction to that first one, this sort of relates to overprescribing for viruses, which antibiotics don't help.
Exactly. Antibiotics really do not kill viruses. They generally don't decrease the duration or intensity of symptoms, and again are often overused. I think the important word there in the email is impressed, because most physicians have the conception, whether real or otherwise, that patients expect antibiotics for upper respiratory symptoms, when generally most of those symptoms are brought on by viruses indeed.
Well, yeah, patient satisfaction is directly correlated to pills.
This is true, and I think more and more we need to spend time with patients and educate patients, explaining to them that antibiotics really aren't warranted. As most physicians have, we've experienced patients who may have been visited another physician come to us as a second physician and say, well, that first physician didn't do anything for me by not prescribing an antibiotic, when in fact, if the thought process was such that a virus was determined to cause the symptoms, it was a good choice not to unnecessarily prescribe an antibiotic. Symptom relief, again, back to our fast-paced society, we want symptom relief immediately, if not sooner, whereas it may take the body 4 or 5 days to recover from this respiratory infection that the body can handle on its own.
Who, if anyone, has a financial incentive to overprescribe antibiotics?
With the present generic antibiotics, there really isn't a financial incentive. Again, to dispel the myth that physicians have any kickback, if you will, from different prescriptions is not true. Again, especially the generics. If patients have a difficulty affording antibiotics, we try to use generics whenever possible, or otherwise see that their needs are met. I think the physicians feel the pressure to do something for a patient, and oftentimes that is a prescription, because it certainly takes time to explain to a patient why this is viral, why I'm not going to prescribe an antibiotic, and these are the symptoms we're going to watch for over the next week to 10 days. If the symptoms don't improve, well, maybe an antibiotic may be warranted down the road, but generally not in the first couple days of an upper respiratory illness.
Has anyone ever done a study on perhaps giving a placebo to someone who comes in and wants that kind of treatment that isn't warranted, and then see whether they were satisfied or not?
That's becoming more and more prevalent, especially with patient satisfaction scores are now the accountable care organizations or other situations like that. I don't think those studies have actually been performed to a huge degree. I did see one study where patients were satisfied if the communication and expectations were met. If that warranted an antibiotic, that was fine, but patients were satisfied if the physician or physician's assistant sat down and explained the symptoms, what's causing the symptoms, and why we're not using an antibiotic.
Well, yeah, if you treat the symptoms, if you can give them something for the cough or something
But
for
a
the
dark
fever.
chocolate M&M or
Dark
something?
chocolate M&M. But our writer brings up another interesting point. He says, but still, isn't the major problem today the enormous sea of antibiotics being used in factory farming?
Again, I don't know that any studies have been done to validate that, and I think by the time the chicken, the beef, eventually reaches the consumer, I think those antibiotics are pretty much washed out of the animals. I don't know that, again, the overuse of antibiotics in animals brings on human resistance. I don't know that that's true or ever been proven, because, again, I think the bacterial are oftentimes communicated person to person. Upper respiratory infections in the wintertime, when people are closer together, there's more work gathering or family gathering in an enclosed area because it's cold outside. That's when we see infections pass person to person more readily.
Well, most of the big viral infections over the years, the flus and things like that, I know that there was a lot of planning for the pandemic a few years ago when they thought avian flu was going to be taking over the world. So far, thank God it hasn't. But are there similar viral infections that are, really very easy to transmit and cause large problems?
There are, and oftentimes they're not even identified. The flu vaccine, for instance, which we start to dispense anytime after Labor Day in early September all the way through January, again, the CDC takes the 3 most common viruses or influenza viruses from Asia, Europe, and then develop the vaccine here in the United States. So we have that advantage. But I think if more people receive vaccinations appropriately, we're less likely to have those huge pandemics that are pretty scary.
Well, the old saw used to be, and I remember laughing about this as a kid, that, if you get a virus, well, maybe it's not going to, antibiotics aren't going to help you, but it might turn into pneumonia, and that we can cure.
Well, again, there have been studies on that. Secondary infections are uncommon, and again, to prescribe an antibiotic on the chance that that could happen has been really downplayed and actually discouraged.
Really? Well, take a look at sinus infections, for example. I mean, I used to get colds that turned into sinus infections. Now, nobody's going to give you an antibiotic for a cold these days, right? But a sinus infection, you might need it for.
You certainly might need it. And again, oftentimes it's the duration of symptoms. In the first 3-4 days, again, it's likely a common cold. If your symptoms get a little bit better and then suddenly worsen over a week to 10 days or longer, then an antibiotic might be warranted. The difficulty is that to diagnose a sinus infection, for example, is really an art of medicine. There's no one test I can give that says, here's your diagnosis, this is what it says on paper, here's your sinus infection. Because it's symptoms, and again, oftentimes they're difficult to interpret.
Well, would somebody, let's say I had that tendency to develop after a cold, a sinus infection, would a doctor in today's world give me an antibiotic just to prevent that from happening, or would that be something you'd want to wait and see if I actually got it before you gave me the antibiotic?
I would hope to wait and see what happened, because oftentimes managing your symptoms, decreasing your exposure will oftentimes eradicate that. And again, with the overuse of antibiotics, I tend to be a little bit more judicious about prescribing them right off the bat.
What impact, if any, does health insurance coverage have on this? We think of the whole Obamacare discussion and health insurances and all this. How does health insurance factor into the antibiotic discussion?
It certainly can, and with people who may lack health insurance, we're more apt to use the generic, which is oftentimes a good starting place to begin with. I think, unfortunately, people with good insurance may receive your most current antibiotics, which may be overused, and again develop resistance in folks with good insurance because, well, it's covered just as well as the generics are, whereas the generics may do the job adequately at a much less cost.
Do health insurance companies ever use patient satisfaction as a factor in determining reimbursements for a hospital or a doctor?
They're not to that point yet, although we're working down that road. That's one of our grades on our report cards recently, is patient satisfaction is becoming a huge factor with insurance companies.
And there's going to be another financial incentive to overprescribe then, because if patients want a pill and you don't give one, well, then you're going to get low scores and you're not going to get $20 instead of, you're going to get $18 instead of 20.
And that's true, and I think the point becomes communication with the patient. I would like the patient to leave the office understanding what's going on, satisfied with our care, and the door is always open to come back if symptoms aren't improving.
Can you stay a little bit past 9 o'clock? Is that feasible? Perfect. All right. Dr. Chris Darup of Middleburg Family Practice Center is going to stick with us. We're really talking about a big issue here, overbiotic or overuse of antibiotics. So we're going to continue that discussion. You are listening to On the Mark. It's the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show on WKOK Saturday.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. Things seem to be looking up for job seekers. The government says new claims for unemployment benefits have plunged to the lowest level in 8 years. Economist Joel Naroff believes the economy is finally turning the corner.
It really does look like the labor market is tightening, and we're finally moving out of that period where the labor market was soft and it was difficult to find jobs.
282,000 workers filed new unemployment claims last week, 19,000 fewer than the week before. An execution in Arizona is raising new questions about the use of lethal injections. It took almost 2 hours for a combination of drugs to kill convicted murderer Joseph Wood. The process is usually over in 10 to 15 minutes. His lawyers say Wood suffered cruel and unusual punishment and want an independent investigation. Richard Brown, a relative of the two people Wood killed, has no sympathy.
This morning, just a few hours ago, though, a number of rockets were...
He smiled and laughed at us and then went to sleep. So all you people that think that these drugs are bad, well, the hell with you guys.
Lawyers went to court while the execution was in progress, asking for a stay. Wood died while the Arizona Supreme Court was considering the case. There's pain, and then there's back pain, and what works for one may not for the other. CBS's Heather Bosch is live with the latest from the Health Watch.
Patients who took acetaminophen, like Tylenol, for their back pain recovered no faster than those who were given a fake pill. That's according to Australian researchers who note acetaminophen is often prescribed because it works on other pain and has few side effects. However, doctors stress everyone is different. They often recommend a variety of treatment for back pain, so they say you should continue to take your Tylenol if it works for you.
The FAA has lifted a ban on flights to Tel Aviv, but CBS's Don Daler tells us Hamas gunners still seem to be targeting Ben Gurion Airport.
This morning, just a few hours ago, though, a number of rockets were fired at the airport as well as downtown Tel Aviv. Those rockets were intercepted by Israel's air defense system, the Iron Dome. And, of course, Israel would point to those successful interceptions and say that's why the ban should never have taken place.
The fighting between Israel and Hamas is in its 17th day. More victims of Flight 17 shoot-down in Ukraine are en route to the Netherlands now.
The second group of bodies will arrive here in the Netherlands in the next hour. 2 planes are transporting a total of 74 bodies. These bodies will again be taken to a forensic lab for identification. There are new calls today here in the Netherlands and in Australia to send troops to the crash site in Ukraine to make sure evidence is not further compromised.
An Algerian commercial flight has vanished en route from Burkina Faso to Algiers. CBS's Deborah Pata has the latest on that.
The plane had been told they needed to make a diversion because of poor visibility and to prevent the risk of collision with another aircraft.
S&P futures are up 4 points. This is CBS News.
Time. It's best found on the weekends and lost in the garage, under the hood, cranking on something. AdvanceAutoParts.com lets you get back to the garage with more time to do what you love. Just buy online and pick up in store 30 minutes later. Plus, order 4 NGK Iridium spark plugs and we'll give you a $10 advance gift card by mail. Advance Auto Parts. Let's get you back to the garage.
Mail-in rebate, void where prohibited. See AdvanceAutoParts.com for details.
Jeffrey H. posts, I really love my new car. Hashtag Honda smiley face. Hey, thanks, Jeffrey. Winky face. We've got lots more cars to love at the Honda Summer Clearance event happening right now, like the awesome Honda Pilot with a rear-view camera and Bluetooth standard. And guess what? Honda was named KBB.com's most trusted brand. Smiley face with the sunglasses on.
Hurry into the Honda Summer Clearance event for 0.9% APR financing for well-qualified buyers.
Based on 2014 brand image awards from Kelley Blue Book, visit KBB.com for more information. See dealer for financing details.
Proposals to punish Russia for supporting pro-Moscow rebels in Ukraine are on the table at a European Union meeting in Brussels. CBS's Larry Miller has the latest from the foreign desk in London.
Stepped-up sanctions being considered by the EU focus on Russia's arms, energy, and financial sectors, but they'll still be limited. The EU is Russia's biggest trading partner, so sanctions will also hurt the European economic recovery. There's also EU infighting, with France calling Britain hypocritical over its arms sales to Russia, and Russian officials dismissed the economic impact of sanctions, saying these are peanuts compared to those imposed during the Soviet era. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
In Gainesville, Florida, a man who allegedly been drinking ran into another vehicle stopped at a red light, then got out and pounded on the other driver's window. When she took off, the man's truck began to roll right into him. He wound up in the hospital with hand and foot injuries. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
On March 3rd last year, Henry W. faced his own death with incredible courage. He wasn't in an accident. He wasn't ill. He wasn't in any danger. But he faced this reality head on. If he died, his wife and children wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage, make the car payments, or keep up the life they'd had. His family would lose everything. So he picked up the phone and called AIG Direct. He found out that through AIG Direct, he could get a $250,000 life insurance policy for less than $14 a month. Now, he knows that he's helped make his family's future secure, no matter what happens to him.
Protecting your family with coverage through AIG Direct is fast, easy, and incredibly affordable. Call AIG Direct right now for a free no-obligation quote. The call takes less than 5 minutes, and you can save up to 70%. Call now, 1-800-530-5857. That's 1-800-530-5857. 1-800-530-5857.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranahan.
Greetings and welcome back to WKOK's live telephone talk show. We're going to dispense with the reading of the minutes, the reading of the headlines, and the reading of the sponsors for the moment. We'll get to those after we take a little bit earlier break than we usually do. But we have a good doctor with us, so we want to make great use of his time. Just a quick scan of his biography. Dr. Chris Darab from Family Practice Center in Middleburg, certified in family practice through the American Board of Osteopathic Family Physicians, very active member of the American Osteopathic Association and the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. So, and folks, when you hear those words, think continuing education, ongoing certification and training, and the latest knowledge. That's what you need to know about that. Just a real great primary care physician, just seeing families and adults and kids out there in Middleburg, and just a super busy guy. And part of the Family Practice Center, of course, we know there's probably 30 of those offices all over the place
27.
around here. 20. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I said about 30.
About 30. Yeah, well, I want to be precise.
Technically right. Okay, I got a couple of quick questions. Speedy dialers can get through 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. You can email us at onthemark@wkok.com. I mentioned in passing the concept of pollution. This is when prescription drugs pass through us and then end up in the environment. We don't really have a lot of conversations about antibiotics when it comes to negative impacts of prescription drugs in the environment. It's mostly other drugs that seem to have a negative impact. Am I right there?
This is true. Antibiotics generally, or hopefully, are taken to their completion, and generally there aren't a lot of loose antibiotics just floating around.
All right, but drugs that pass through us are part of this, but even so, it's psychotropic drugs, and some other drugs that seem to be the real culprit with
this is true.
Intersexing and all that sort of thing.
But with antibiotics, you're supposed to take the full course, so there shouldn't be any leftovers, right? If people do what they're instructed to do?
I would hope not. I cringe every time I hear that, well, so-and-so had a few moxicillin left over, so I took those before I came into
So there's two drug abusers in that house then, right?
One who doesn't take it and one who uses it inappropriately.
I know proper disposition of leftover drugs is an issue, and I know our police department has a drug drop-off box, and a lot of police departments do now, where people can safely dispose of their unused prescriptions. But for antibiotics, you shouldn't let them lie around, right?
Right. Well, yeah, they'll end up in the hands of the wrong person, is what the law enforcement folks say. The other aspect of this is if I go to see you and I want a pill, you cannot prescribe a placebo or something that's more inert.
Oftentimes we'll talk about symptom relief, either nasal sprays, antihistamines, decongestants, or other medicines that can help you feel better, but again, not the antibiotic route that may lead to resistance.
And do you have time to have this conversation? And we've talked to you for 45 minutes, and I still have questions. So you don't have that kind of time with patients, or do you there?
It becomes difficult, especially during cold and flu season, when the office does tend to get more busy during the winter months. And that's why a lot of physicians will, again, it's more convenient oftentimes to use, all right, well, here's the antibiotic. If you don't feel better, let me know, because it does take some time to answer patients' questions and educate patients on why we may not be using an antibiotic at this visit. Unfortunately, time's a commodity as well, and it's one that most physicians don't have a lot of.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Any additional remarks, maybe places to get more information? The website for Family Practice Center is fpcdoctors.com. Additional information you'd like to add?
The CDC is also an excellent website. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention is an excellent website. And generally, I'll encourage healthy lifestyles. Again, proper nutrition, proper rest, adequate hydration, overall moderate exercise. Those type of lifestyle changes help prevent a lot of these infections in the first place.
Any sort of go-to website that's non-government related? I'm trying to think of the AMA has a website, and for some strange reason it's not popping into my head.
I like to use the American Academy of Family Physicians, or simply the AAFP. Is a good website. There's both physician information there as well as patient information.
What about these websites like WebMD, that offer you can get your symptoms diagnosed? Are they doing a disservice to people, do you think, or are they beneficial?
I think as long as it's an adequate and reputable website, it's fine. WebMD is a good one. I get concerned when patients put it out on Facebook and such says this and such says that. That worries me. But generally, again, WebMD is a good one. So I'll encourage patients, whatever website you use, see who it's sponsored by. Mayo Clinic or Johns Hopkins or the American Academy of Family Physicians. Those are reputable ones.
When people see these websites and come to you, or family practice doctors generally, do they come in more informed, more well-informed than they were years ago, or are they filled with misinformation?
I think it's some of both.
Okay.
Again, a good website is almost invaluable because, again, patients can learn the differences between viruses and bacterial infections. Unfortunately, a poor website leads to a lot of misinformation.
All right, so we got to stop this there and get the doctor back into the doctor's office. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks a lot.
And please come back. Tell your bosses to send other representatives to talk about other topics. I think really this should be brought up more often. Dr. Chris Sidarup was with us. We're going to take our first break of the day, and with that we'll open up the phones for any topic you wish to discuss. The Groninger Insurance toll-free line is 1-800-795-9565. Lenape Solar email in basket is open. Email us at onthemark@WKOK.com, and our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Come on home to convenience. Come on over with style. Come on home to real savings. Service with the real smile.
Hey, why search the newspaper classifieds when the best yard sales are at Kohl's Hardware?
Come on home to Kohl's annual yard sale event for the best prices of the year on seasonal merchandise, overstock items, and closeout products.
Show up early for bargain prices on grills, patio furniture, solar lights, pool toys, lawn and garden merchandise, and more.
Smart yard sale shoppers know that each yard sale is unique, so be sure to shop all 11 Kohl's Hardware locations.
And be sure to shop Kohl's yard sale event often, since the prices keep going down.
Now is the perfect time to buy hand and power tools, fountains, hose carts, statuary, paint, automotive goods, houseware items, and more.
Look for the big white tents at all 11 Kohl's Hardware stores and shop the yard sales. We're right around the corner, right here in your hometown. Come on home to Kohl's.
Come on home to Kohl's. Kohl's Hardware. Come on home to Kohl's.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Obvious.
Hotel doors are for privacy. They're also the best way to get inside your room. The twin beds in hotels aren't special-made beds for twins. When you spend less on a hotel room, you still get to use the entire hotel room.
Get up to 40% off hotels during the summer sale. Hurry and book by August 4th for travel by August 18th. Hotels.com, the obvious choice.
Want to know the secret to success, kid? One thing, the Grainger catalog. And Grainger.com. Okay, that's two things. Oh, and Grainger's got mobile apps. Those sure are convenient. 3 things to succeed. Hey, and 1-800-GRAINGER. I know that number by heart. 4 things. There's hundreds of branches, too. Like I said, the one secret to keep this place running smoothly is Grainger. Get it? Got it? Good. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. We just had Dr. Chris Darup here of Family Practice Center Middleburg talking about overuse of antibiotics. As the months go on, we'll talk about overuse of all kinds of other drugs, the superbugs, the overuse and misuse perhaps of various drugs, and then the environmental impact that's part of this. Really a pretty big topic, so we'll continue this conversation. Our webcam is up and running. Please go to WKOK.com. You can watch the show live. You can see the great work that Mark Mahoney, our engineer, is doing. Joe McGranahan's the co-host. I'm Mark Lawrence. On the Mark brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915. SunburyMotors.com is their main website. You can build a Ford car or truck to your precise specifications there. Find out in advance what it'll look like, what it'll cost, and you can do it internetically at SunburyMotors.com. Lenape Solar email in-basket is open. You email on the Mark at WKOK.com, and in many cases we'll read your email on the radio. Lenape Solar, 140 South 2nd Street in Sunbury. They got a solar array display set up for you to see. If you wonder what the solar panels will look at, how big is a big one and how little is a little one, they have them all for you to see at Lenape Solar. And boy, they're a growing company. Busy down there. LenapeSolar.com, their main website, if you want to talk about this discussion with them via the internet in advance. And GroningerInsurance.com, the main website of the fastest growing insurance company in the Valley, recently consuming by popular demand the Shamrock Insurance Agency. That means Progressive crosses over to the Groninger boys too, and they are John and Jim, but you can see Paula and Mel and the rest of the staff at Groninger about making sure that all of your insurance needs are met, expectations exceeded, your opinions are elevated, and everything you need to know about insurance is taken care of. Some very brief news headlines here. More than 500 migrant children are being brought into Pennsylvania to irritate Joe. They're being housed in Pennsylvania as federal officials wrestle with the national crisis created by a flood of tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors across the southwest U.S. border. State officials confirmed Wednesday that the federal government told them 120 children are in 2 temporary shelters, one at Bethlehem, another near Reading. Kate Gillis of the State Department of Public Welfare says 386 youngsters are staying with sponsors around Pennsylvania. Hit the gas when you get to Lamar. Speed limits are rising to 70 miles an hour on 100 miles of interstate from Clinton to Clearfield County. Trouble is, you'll be in Clearfield County at the other end of the drive. And that is because PennDOT says they're raising the roadway speed limit at certain ultra-safe sections of Pennsylvania Turnpike and Interstate Highway. Some other sections going up to 70 miles per hour as well. And U.S. Senator Marco Rubio says advocates for gay marriage often show the same intolerance toward people that they often say that he displays. He says the intolerance is shown toward people who, like him, only support traditional marriage. In remarks Wednesday at the Catholic University of America, the Florida Republican said opposition to same-sex marriage isn't necessarily bigotry. He said there's a growing intolerance on the issue by gay rights advocates who point fingers at conservatives and say they're bigots because they don't support gay rights. He says intolerance in the name of tolerance is hypocrisy. Rubio, of course, the 2016 presidential candidate, says abortion involves not just the woman but also an unborn child. Well, that's farther into his remarks, but Ben often points this out, that the biggest hypocrites, he feels, are liberals who point out the hypocrisy of conservatives.
Well, they don't. Well, no, there's hypocrisy on both sides.
It's a
let's
human
face
condition.
But I find it interesting that many on the left, they want to punish people for their intolerance, but yet they're intolerant too. They wouldn't they be tolerant of a conservative's opinion if they really believed in tolerance?
I think so, but I think mostly on topics that you can that if given a more reasonable discussion, everybody can agree on, are exclusively negative. Like, you won't find anyone advocating for child abuse. You won't find anyone advocating for bigotry. You won't find anyone advocating for racism or intolerance towards gay marriage.
Well, you might find those people somewhere.
Well, yeah, you do. So I think, and on either side of that, if you find out about this and you talk about it, there is a general feeling that it is just plain unacceptable, no matter what, to feel that way.
But I mean, you and I often disagree, and God knows I disagree with Than, but your positions are legitimate. You've arrived at the conclusion that you're right, and you look at the same set of facts I looked at, we arrived at different conclusions.
I just happen to be wrong, right?
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that, in many instances, people look at the same set of facts and arrive at different conclusions. And so does that make me a bad person for disagreeing with you? Or if I believed that gay marriage was wrong and I said so, should I be punished for that? If I believed it was right and I said so, should the other side punish me?
Well, is there some ideal person who is accepting and interested in? I often call you a free thinker, same with Than, but are there people out there that just generally truly embrace what others believe?
Well, why should you? Why do I have to embrace your ideals? I should. Tolerance is a bad word because it implies, to a certain extent, sufferance. I disagree with you and I'm just putting up with you.
Yeah, to tolerate it.
Right. I don't like that word, but I believe you have a right to your opinions. You have a right to hold the beliefs you hold. And I respect those beliefs. I disagree with them. I'm going to argue with you about them if you bring the subject up to me. But you never bring it up, I won't bring it up.
Rush ruined it.
How? How did Rush ruin it?
Well, because he made it okay to use vitriol to talk about political positions with which you disagree.
Well, he wasn't the first person to do that.
Well, no, but he made it a household name that it's perfectly okay to not only disagree with a person on a political topic, but to also to disparage them or do name calling or to do to really belittle them. Up until then, I think most people generally sort of live and let live kind of attitude, but since then, I think a growing number of individuals are more intolerant, and liberals among them. It isn't just a conservative intolerance, but I think he sort of set the standard that if you're going to have a strong political viewpoint, it's important that you put down whoever opposes you.
Well, I have Facebook friends who post things that irritate me or that I find offensive as a conservative, but I don't defriend them or unfriend them. They're entitled to their opinion.
You can make it so that you don't see their opinions. They're still your friend, but you don't see their posts.
But I like to know what they're thinking.
That's what I did with you.
Well, you did. You unfriend. You don't.
Well, no, we're still friends, but I have it. It's like the non-display mode. Anything you post, I don't see, but we're still friends.
I don't put up anything political.
I know. I'm just harassing you. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't know of Logan's huge progress. Your grandson's is getting so tall. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's difficult to say you're tolerant and then be intolerant, and I see that in a lot of people.
I hate people who are intolerant.
Yeah, right. So your tolerance for the intolerant is gone, right?
Right. I don't accept them or embrace them.
Well, But how can you not? I mean, to someone else, you're intolerant. I mean, you have an opinion that I find offensive, let's say. Should I treat you with respect, or should I blow you off and not deal with you? I mean, this is still a free country, and it goes back to what we were talking about last week about, what's his name? Who was that cat scratch fever guy?
Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent, right. Should you pay a price for your beliefs? You know, and am I not better off knowing what you believe than I am not knowing where you're coming from?
All right, the bigotry of intolerance and the acceptance of other viewpoints are the two extremes we're talking about. I would love folks to weigh in on this. We sort of happenstance into this. I'm not quite sure how we go. Oh, because
Marco
of
Rubio.
Right, Marco Rubio, accurately pointing out some hypocrisy, which then Joe accurately pointed out is, in fact, a human condition and not a conservative or democratic ownership of that. What's your opinion about this, about folks who are accepting or not? Someone just texted me a note, says, Mark, you're very intolerant of Rush Limbaugh. So, thank you, honey. I appreciate the note. Yeah, that's probably true. 1-800-795-9565 is our open phone. Give us a call. We'd love to talk about this. We're not going to take a break right now, so I want to be clear to our producer over there.
I thought you were going to a break. I was ready to take my headphones off.
We're not quite due for one, about 5 minutes, so we're fine. But, yeah, the Groninger Insurance toll-free line is open, 1-800-795-9565. What's your view on what Marco Rubio had to say is that liberals, is the word he used, are just as intolerant as conservatives when they're talking about the opposite political viewpoints. 1-800-795-9565. You're also welcome to email us. If you would like to email us an observation about this, a quick email can be sent to onthemark@wkok.com, and it falls into the Lenape Solar email in basket. So,
you know, with so many people, though, it becomes an ideological argument. They feel they have to win. I can talk to you about something, but I don't feel like I have to win the argument with you. I realize I'm not going to. I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not going to change Stan's mind. I'm not going to change Ben's mind. But if we make each other think about what we're talking about, then we've done our job, I think.
Right. Well, that's what I started to allude to a little bit, but I think I got sidetracked. But this idea of, if there was some sort of an ideal citizen who would listen, actively listen is what they call it, I guess, when you're kind of...
Active listening?
Right, when you're kind of thinking about and sort of mulling over what they say and seriously considering the viewpoint. You may hold fast to your ideals or whatever your viewpoint is. And I remember when Than was in on this comparable discussion one time, he says, well, these are my ideals. You won't get me to change my mind about, let's say, choice. I don't remember, maybe it was the death penalty or something like that. These are sort of things that you hold dear and you're not likely to change your view on. 1-800-795-9565. Give us a buzz. We're talking about acceptance of other viewpoints or the immediate dismissal of other people's viewpoints. 1-800-795-9565. Chris from Milton. I know you're ultra-liberal, so I dismiss as democratic anything you say.
Just can't stand me, huh?
Yeah.
I'll listen to you, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's irony.
Okay.
There's irony for you.
Yeah, I think you're setting up one of those false equivalence things in a lot of these cases, like comparing what was going on with Ted Nugent and the Dixie Chicks.
Okay.
What he said and how he said it was far worse than the Dixie Chicks, and and it was one Indian reservation, Concedo, that decided not to have them because of his views. Whereas there was organized attempts to ban the Dixie Chicks from any radio or boycott radios to do it or put pressure on radio stations to get rid of them. The Dixie Chicks, all they said, they didn't like the war. They were against the war, basically, and they were ashamed that the president was from Texas who started the war.
Okay.
Which isn't very extreme. You've said what Ted Nugent said a lot of times, so I won't repeat it. And he also said things like he wanted Hillary Clinton to suck on his AK-47 and all sorts of things like that. So there's really no equivalence there.
Well, but Chris, let me ask you this question, Chris. Do you think that people should pay a work penalty for a private opinion?
Well, I don't think you should pay a work penalty for your employer's private opinion.
You lost me there.
The lease and Hobby Lobby law.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. So that's
what you're paying.
No, but what I'm asking you is
that.
if you have
the Supreme Court said that was constitutional, which was pretty disgusting.
But so I call you in. I say I heard you're on the radio this morning, Chris. Don't like your opinions. You're fired. Should you pay a penalty for your opinions? I mean, what I'm saying is I may not like what you say, but I don't think your work should be impacted by how you feel personally.
Well, then you disagree with the Hobby Lobby thing.
Well, not exactly. I don't disagree with the Hobby Lobby thing. I don't, your personal opinion and what you want to do in birth control, government should be out of that business entirely.
Well, and
let pay for your own birth control.
Should be out of your opinion on politics, and they should also be out of your opinion on how you use your health care.
Well, if I have to pay for something I disagree with or disbelieve, no. But the majority of it, there 27 different types of contraception available, and 2 of them were banned? And they're going to argue over the 2 that are banned instead of...
except that if your true religious belief is that, then they can also... the one with the church coming up that doesn't want any contraception is coming up, and there's no rational way to rule any different on it.
Well, look at it in the reverse. You say they're imposing their religious views on you, but when you make them pay for it, you're imposing your non-religious views on them.
I'm not making them pay for it.
They are.
I'm not making
you're
them
not making them pay
for it.
You're not.
No.
Someone
I'm not
is,
making them pay for it. The government's not making them pay for it.
It's an offer, so to speak, correct?
They're offering the insurance. The government has rules about what insurance can be offered.
Of course, and folks have the offers, could have employment offers elsewhere, so they could exercise their free speech and/or choice rights in that manner.
And just like the homosexuals being intolerant, well, yeah, I think they do get upset, and they do like to apply pressure, like the people did against the Dixie Chicks.
Right.
And that part's true, but it's really the other direction was hatred of gays, which was incredibly prevalent in this country, and actually still is.
Not just here.
Yeah, the whole country. Well,
the whole world.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we got you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Hey, but one thing I just wanted to add to that point that it's not the same thing when you try to enforce the law against them. When you campaign, when you make your religion the law of the land, then I think you are showing intolerance.
All right.
And I don't really want Sharia law, and I don't want papal law.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
sir.
Chris.
Very much
appreciate your call.
All right. Now we are going to take the required break. It is time to take a quick break, so we'll do so here on WKOK. We will be right back on our On the Mark program.
Make this summer's family vacation one they'll remember for years when you discover all the great things to do in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Like biking country roads or horseback rides. Ice cream cones are the perfect way to cool down before the lights go out and a ghost tour begins. Even history is fun when you grab a selfie with President Lincoln on the iPad tour. Choose a comfortable hotel or cozy bed and breakfast because they'll want to stay, and so will you. Plan today at DestinationGettysburg.com. And you thought we were just history.
No more hurt.
No more fear.
No more silence and shame.
13 million people are physically abused, raped, or stalked by their partners each year.
No more jokes.
No more laughing.
No more disrespect.
There's nothing funny about domestic violence and sexual assault.
No more feeling powerless to stop it.
No more being uncomfortable and afraid to speak up.
No more waiting for someone else to do it first.
It's time to say no more. Tell everyone you know. Together, we can end domestic violence and sexual assault. A message from the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. Learn more at pcard.org.
Why should you buy an RV from Susquehanna Valley RV?
Yeah, why?
Let's start with the biggest inventory of new and pre-owned RVs in the Susquehanna Valley, with 2 locations, Route 522 Selinsgrove and Route 11 in Bloomsburg.
I like the way they treat customers at Susquehanna Valley RV, and 31 years in the business, they know RVs inside and out, because they're campers themselves.
Then something some people miss, service. To enjoy the RV for many years, let the experienced and certified technicians at Susquehanna Valley RV Take care of your investment.
What is going on at the Selinsgrove location? Looks like a lot of construction.
To serve their customers better, Susquehanna Valley RV is adding 2 more bays to the service department, and that's taking care of the customer.
I sure do see a lot of nice pre-owned RVs.
Susquehanna Valley RV right now has over 200 quality safety check pre-enjoyed RVs at must-go prices. They really do mean go. They sold so many new RVs, they have an abundance of quality pre-enjoyed RVs.
Susquehanna Valley RV, Route 522 Selinsgrove and Route 11 Bloomsburg, a camper's best friend.
Come on home to convenience. Come on over with style. Come on home to real savings. Service with the real smile.
Hey, why search the newspaper classifieds when the best yard sales are at Kohl's Hardware?
Come on home to Kohl's annual yard sale event for the best prices of the year on seasonal merchandise, overstock items, and closeout products.
Show up early for bargain prices on grills, patio furniture, solar lights, pool toys, lawn and garden merchandise, and more.
Smart yard sale shoppers know that each yard sale is unique, so be sure to shop all 11 Kohl's Hardware locations.
And be sure to shop Kohl's yard sale event often, since the prices keep going down.
Now is the perfect time to buy hand and power tools, fountains, hose carts, statuary, paint, automotive goods, houseware items, and more.
Look for the big white tents at all 11 Kohl's Hardware stores and shop the yard sales. We're right around the corner, right here in your hometown. Come on home to Kohl's.
Come on home to Kohl's. Kohl's Hardware. Come on home to Kohl's.
Hi, everybody. Steve Jones from The Steve Jones Show. Josh Moyer of ESPN.com on college football and the Nittany Lions. Today, 3 to 5, News Radio 1070, WKOK.
Well, we cure all known diseases and fed the poor during the break. What else is there, Jim?
Am I on my mark now? Am I at my right place?
Yes.
Am I in the frame, Kevin?
You put a little piece of X tape on the floor where Joe has to stand.
I was castigated during the break for leaning back, taking off my glasses and headphones before the commercials actually started running.
You'll never do that again.
Never.
So, yes, lean forward to the little X, and we're supposed to say these words in this order. Groninger Insurance sponsors the toll-free line, 1-800-795.
He's going to move me.
Oh, no.
No?
But we're still in the...
okay, where am I going, Kevin?
We're not on camera right now, so it's okay, Kevin. Groninger Insurance toll-free line is 1-800-795-9565. It is open right now. Lenape Solar email in basket is open. We invite you to email us at onthemark@wkok.com. Sunbury Motor Company is our sponsor. Across from me, and enjoying a moving experience even as we speak, is Joe McGranahan.
I'm waiting to see what Kevin's going to do behind me. He's going to take me out of the picture entirely.
Oh, he's centering you a little bit more clear. Oh, no. Oh, that's the perfect image of Joe right there. Take him right off the camera.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes.
I will sit still now.
Approximately 7 billion people on the planet are curious why Joe just rolled off the camera. But Joe McGranahan is the Republican across the table from me. He's a retired COO of the Sunbury Broadcasting Corps. He was in charge of the whole operation here for over 50 years. And
No, I wasn't here for 50 years, 30.
It just seemed like it for those of
right,
us
for those of you who worked here, it seemed like 50.
It's like, oh my God, you're killing us. All right, so that is Joe McGranahan. I am Mark Lawrence, subhuman mongrel that I am, and very glad to be hosting the show. Other side of the glass, Kevin is just irritating additional people today. One of them is Mark Mahoney, who's the producer of the show. He's the greatest IT and social media guy in the world. The webcam is up and running. The sponsors, we mentioned that, the call-in number and the email address all recited. We did do news headlines earlier, so now we're back into open phones. Now we're talking about really what is divisive political opinion. Marco Rubio pointed out to a group of Catholics in Florida that there is certainly intolerance among those individuals on the left who wish to point out that the right is intolerant and that they won't accept that. My comeback is simply, well, all forms of bigotry are bad. Everybody agrees to that, and that's what one of the left's criticisms might be.
But are you a bigot if you disagree with somebody? In other words, if I say, I don't think gay marriage is right, based on my religious principles, am I a bigot?
I think you're bordering on it. You're approaching it. It could be.
Why? Yeah, because I have a religious principle?
No, not the religious principle, but the fact that you take that principle and you use it to impose on others. State Representative Fred Keller would be the perfect example, and I'm not calling him a bigot. Let's clarify that. But
Thank you. I'm sure Fred will appreciate that.
Well, no, but I am saying that he uses his strong faith-based beliefs about gay marriage to impose those on others to make sure that gay marriage
How does he impose them?
Because when decisions came up in Harrisburg that could have changed marriage laws, he expressed views that made sure, or at least on this program, expressed views that made it clear that he would not like to see gay marriage made legal. So he's imposing that view.
What should he have done? Abstain from voting?
I think he should let the people live freely without oppressive government deciding their bedroom activities, and so that there must be some way to run our government that doesn't impose moral decision making on us, like small amounts of marijuana. There's a better example. Skip gay marriage. Let's do small amounts of marijuana.
Okay.
He loves the laws the way they are. All right, where if you get busted with a joint, it's a felony, and you got jail time is almost a certainty because of that small amount of marijuana. Well, it's my personal choice. If in the privacy of my home I wish to grow, then consume a small amount of marijuana, why should I go to jail because I've made that? Certainly, alcohol is a much more harmful drug.
It's against the law?
Right. Oh, no, I understand the sequence that follows in this society, but I'm just saying he feels strongly that those laws are appropriate. Okay, that's fine, and I respect that.
And he is a legislator elected by the people who live in this area to represent their views. And one thing about Fred Keller is, if you know him, you know what his views are. He doesn't make any bones about it.
Perfect.
He'll tell you right up front.
Yeah,
so
well
people
said.
voted for him. What does that mean? That means that at least the majority of the people who went to the polls decided that his views were reflective of how they felt. Now, isn't that what he should do? Shouldn't he represent? The title is representative, and that implies you go to Harrisburg or Washington and you follow the will of your constituents to the best of your ability.
Right. No, I understand that, and I think that.
Well, then how does that make him almost a bigot?
Well, skip that. That does not relate to marijuana. I don't think that was back on the gay topic. But I think that there is a conversation that has to be had is what is the amount of appropriate government regulation of private decision making that doesn't affect other people, even if it may be perceived by others as harmful. You know, let's suppose that skip it. We don't need fake examples. We'll use real ones. Let's use small amount of marijuana. Alcohol is a drug that you're allowed to use a small amount of small amount of alcohol under the right circumstances in a regulated capacity here in Pennsylvania, and that seems somewhat appropriate. Well, why is it marijuana made a felony if you use a small amount of this mind-altering drug in your own privacy? Why is that inappropriate? Because that's a decision that he feels strongly about, and he's working hard to make sure that it stays highly illegal to use marijuana. So even though he might find a majority of people, which in this area is possible, but nationally no, that think marijuana should stay highly illegal, why should people that just make this decision based on sort of a moral idea have to impose that morality on me?
Well, I don't know if we could get him up here, but one of the speakers at the state mayor's conference was a DEA agent out of Harrisburg. And he talked at length, he was questioned at length about whether or not marijuana, in his view, was a gateway drug. He argued that it was, and he had facts and statistics and figures that showed, in many instances, how people progress through that. So it's not harmless if you believe he's right, and he sees it up front and personal every day of his life. You know, so you feel it is not harmful. He feels it is. Society, for the moment, has said in Pennsylvania it's harmful. You know, can't you live with that? If you want to toke over the line, go out to Colorado or California.
Do you ever drink any alcohol?
Seldom.
Okay. Well,
once
so
in a while, I'll have a
bad
beer
example.
with dinner.
Do you ever have ice cream? That has a lot of sugar. Sugar's bad for you.
Ice cream.
Okay. Well, you shouldn't do that. In fact, it should be illegal because that is not good for you.
But it doesn't impact anyone else. The fact that I'm overweight.
How does marijuana hurt other people?
Because if it is a gateway drug and you move on to things that are illegal, it's illegal. First of all, you're practicing an illegal activity.
Well, ice cream's a gateway food.
Well, I'll admit that. It makes me hungrier.
What could lead to obesity?
But so what? If that's me...
Well, that could harm us because our insurance rates will go up.
How is my obesity harming you?
Our insurance rates could go up.
Because I'm fat? Explain that one to me.
Well, if the insurance company insures 952,000 morbidly obese people who eat tons of ice cream every day, and only one skinny person like me, well, then I have to pay higher rates so that I can help support your medical attention.
You're on one hand trying to say get government out of our way. Now you're putting government in our way. Where do you stand on helmets for motorcycle riders? Aren't they driving up the cost? They get in a wreck and they're damaged, their brain's damaged, their insurance costs are driving our costs up?
Well, see, now
But they're allowed not to wear the helmet.
See, that's a slightly different because driving isn't a right; it's a privilege. You sort of pay to use.
Well,
the
eating
road.
isn't a right or a privilege; it's a necessity.
Right, no argument there. All right, we do have some emails on this topic. Than weighs in on this. Our good co-host from Wednesday says the majority was in favor of slavery in the 1800s. Should we have listened to the voters or our moral compass? Yeah, just because people feel something is moral, a moral majority doesn't make them right, or as I'm trying to argue, they shouldn't have the right to impose that on other people. Let's see, another emailer here, if I could be actually permitted to read them. Thank you, guys. Let's see. The answer mark is none.
What was the question?
Yeah, the subject is the question. The amount of government interference in our private lives. Drew Bingaman, who's a true libertarian, says the answer mark is none. No interference in our private lives. Yeah, thank you, Drew.
So what happens when your private life crosses over into my private life?
Well, I think you can have some limited regulation that prevent me from hurting other people, and I think that's why DUI laws...
So the only law we need on the books is thou shalt not hurt anyone else.
No, I don't think that's true, but I think in a way that's one of the things that a lot of laws are designed to do, like burglary. Well, you're creating a victim when you burgle someone, so so that seems like
you're creating a victim when you're stoned high on marijuana or something else and you wreck your car.
Oh, I think there should be DUI laws. I don't have any problem with DUI laws. I think that's appropriate. Impaired driving. I would like to know that DUI laws are enforced too. Now, I don't like random checkpoints along roads, but I do think that you should driving under so much marijuana, if this is even possible, and I'm sorry I'm not ultra informed on excessive marijuana use, but if you're so high that you can't drive, then I think that a DUI is appropriate.
And if the money you spend on that marijuana prevents you from spending money on the care and maintenance of your family and your children, you only have so much disposable income.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If you buy so much pot that you don't take good care of your kids.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure that we legislate proper ways to parent. If we do, a lot of parents
we do. We have laws about parenting.
Right. Well, for
Can't beat your children.
more blatant abuse. All right. Fortunately, we got some calls here, so we can stop...
arguing with each other.
Right. Thank you. I'm not winning this one. So, Tony, go right ahead. You're on the mark.
Suppose I wanted to bet with a bookie instead of the state. Why is that illegal?
Well, because then the senior citizens wouldn't get the money.
Because the state isn't getting their money, right?
Right. Yeah, they want in on it.
Illegal.
Right, and it's okay if you consume lots of alcohol.
Make a statement that during the 1800s, majority of people favored slavery.
Yes, he's wrong, but don't let that stop you.
No, I mean, he is wrong. I mean, where did he get that poll? Who took that poll? They fought a civil war, man.
I think it said
600,000 was killed.
No, he said they were.
Oh, they were. Okay. Well, in any event, okay, so he's wrong on the statistics. But I think it's a hypothetical.
4 years to get the Democrats to give up on slavery, and we fought a bloody civil war over it. I don't think there was any poll ever conducted who was in favor or not in favor of slavery.
Well, we know the Southerners were, the slaveholders were.
We know the slaveholders were. We don't know the Southerners were.
So you're saying this is the Northerners imposing their moral opinion on Southerners?
Well, we did, in effect.
Right.
No, we got the Democrats to give up on slavery. It was the Democratic states that supported it.
Okay.
By fighting a war.
By fighting a war.
Okay, and this relates to our present-day situation where folks with very high ideals impose their moral opinions on us locally. How?
Pardon?
I'm with him. What did you...
All right, abortion. Take abortion, right?
Okay.
Somebody wants to kill their baby by having her brain sucked out, by having her arms and limbs tore off, the baby's arms and limbs. Why should we, as a people, have to support it?
Well, because the Supreme Court says it's a woman's personal choice.
Because it's a woman's personal choice. It's not my choice. That baby has the right to a life.
Okay.
That baby does not have the right to be murdered. And people say, well, it's not a baby. Well, it's not a tomato plant either.
Good point.
All right, we got you. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thanks,
Very
Tony.
much appreciate
your call.
It makes perfect sense in your discussions. So, Paul, thank you for checking in. Please, what is the unanswerable question of the day?
Well,
wait, hold on, Paul. Mark, on the chroma key, what you do is you put Paul, the unanswerable question guy from Northumberland is the proper reference on the TV screen. Okay, Paul, go right ahead.
Okay, you people speak a lot about facts. And I hear so much about facts but I think the word fact is misused. Fact is something that is unquestionable and undisputable, for it exists and stands alone. What you were talking about is evidence. Evidence is something that is questionable and can be disputed, and the rightness and the wrongness of it is based on the education or the decision of an individual's mind.
Say what?
Oh, yeah, you have to repeat that. I'm sorry. I got distracted by the bird, and then that hit the reset button in my head. So go right ahead. One more time.
What bird?
There's a bird in the background.
Oh, okay.
What kind of bird is that, Paul?
Well, what it amounts to is that facts stand alone. And evidence, when it's presented, is the rightness and the wrongness of it is based on the education or the individual's mind in which he or she makes that decision.
All right, I still don't follow you. I'm still on the bird.
Okay.
A
In
bird
other
named
words,
Facts.
you are an individual. You're listening to a conversation, and now you're disputing as to whether or not it is right or wrong. If it's argumented, you present your evidence, and then you as an individual, based on your education, decide whether or not it is right or it is wrong. If it is wrong, it is because you now see the other person's point of view.
Okay. All right, I still don't get the... where's the question mark there?
But the question mark is stop using fact when you're referring to evidence.
Okay. Oh, I got you. Okay, so let's... All right, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Just because you decide to agree with someone doesn't mean that what they were saying is fact.
Well, let me tell you this, Mark. I have never seen anybody that can argue with the person that agrees with him.
Oh, I don't know. Dan and I
can.
agree on quite a bit, but we don't agree on maybe implementation or something.
Well, there you just made his point.
Oh, okay.
Well,
All
if
right.
I
Don't agree
with
entirely.
you, then you have no comeback.
All right, I got you. All right, thank you, sir. Listen, I do appreciate your call. That's Paul from Northumberland, the unanswerable question man. From
And today's unanswerable question, at least he didn't answer it, is what's that kind of bird is that in the background?
All right, oh, I think the bird is called Fact. I think that's what
Fact,
he did say.
okay.
The bird is called Fact. So those are the only facts present in the world if they are on a perch making noise. All right, we're going to take our last break of the day, but we invite you to call us. We're really talking about strong opinions, intolerance, acceptance, embracing others' viewpoints, and oh no, get back here. Joe tried to escape before we went to break. All right, 1-800-795-9565 is the telephone number. Lenape Solar email in basket available at onthemark@wkok.com, and we will be right back.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Here's something to think about. How do you know if your insurance is the right price? Have you ever had your insurance reviewed? Do you remember when it was reviewed? And are you getting all the discounts you deserve? Let Groninger Insurance Agency give you a free, no-obligation second opinion on your auto, home, or business insurance. Give the Groninger Insurance Agency a call today at 570-473-8107. They're proud to represent the Erie Insurance Group. It's true, if you're not insured by Groninger Insurance, you're probably paying too much.
This is Justin Charles from Lenape Solar. Did you know we use exclusive manufacturing partners? Our solar modules are made with American components in an American factory by an American company in Milwaukee. Our lighting fixtures are made less than 3 hours away in Philadelphia. Even our fluorescent lamps are made here in the U.S., as are our solar racking systems. We're dedicated not just to quality, but our local economy. Find out more by calling 286-1496, online at lenapesolar.com, or drop by our showroom at 140 South 2nd Street, Sunbury, and see these products in person.
Welcome back to WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. Mark Lawrence here, foolishly trying to defend the moral right in this. The fact that imposing your moral viewpoints on other people is wrong, whether you're an elected leader or just someone in the room with
Who
me.
has imposed their moral beliefs on you?
Oh my gosh, where do we even start? Well, marijuana, this is a moral issue for our state legislature and our governor. So medical marijuana can't be legalized because they think it's morally wrong. And
Well, I think they're considering legalizing medical marijuana. Are they not for limited conditions?
No, one tiny sliver of medical marijuana for one tiny sliver, although very important constituency, of children would be able to use if this goes through, and the governor says he's going to veto it anyway. So.
I thought he had changed his mind about that.
No, because the bill got widened, and now he says he won't allow it if it's a broader bill that's now getting all the attention.
I mean, for the therapeutic value of it, I have no problem with it. But, you know, at the moment, the way the examples you're citing aren't therapeutic, they're recreational.
Well, yeah,
you
we're
aren't saying
talking
about
two
you're saying
different
about saying taking marijuana in your bedroom. I don't know what goes on there at night. I assume there's some sort of a party.
How about on your own property, if you'd be allowed to? I mean, you could smoke it in the shed.
You can't
if you
shoot a gun off in your house. It's illegal.
Is it?
Should you be allowed to use firearms in your home? Just randomly shoot out your walls if you want?
I guess if you have proper ventilation and a proper backstop, and gunpowder gives off mercury, so you don't want to do that too much. One of our it's from Than. Okay, he says alcohol and tobacco are gateway drugs, Joe. And the DEA agent is, actually I think what he's trying to say is alcohol and tobacco, alcohol and tobacco are gateway drugs, period. And the DEA agent is protecting his job by misstating the role of pot in addiction. Actual science seems to dispute his statements. Yes, very true, Than. Excellent point. Thank you very much.
Well,
these
Thantopia in his little world.
Well, that's what these cops do, is they sit there and say, oh, drugs are causing all these problems, so please give us more money.
With due respect to Than's opinion, he didn't hear this guy. He didn't hear him speak. He didn't hear the facts he laid out.
Nobody heard how you summarized it.
Well, I didn't do him justice because the guy's a pro and he was talking at length.
Well, Than's only
I'm summarizing in a few minutes what he took in a half an hour to tell us and the reasons behind what he told us. I think there were, there are Republican mayors, Democratic mayors, liberals, and conservatives. Nobody disputed him when he was done.
Cindy, thank you so much for calling in. You are on the mark.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I think I perceive people who engage in debate or argument by questioning someone's faith or religiosity, their patriotism, their humanity. I see that kind of behavior as intellectually immature. And when people make an argument that is only founded in attacking other people, I don't listen to them anymore. I'm more than willing to calmly discuss the reasons behind people's decisions, and certainly they may lean towards their faith or the way they were reared or whatever. But when I don't engage in, and I reject the behavior of saying, for example, Mark, because you don't agree with me, you're unchristian, or Joe, your choices about marijuana mean you're not a patriot. I just think that represents a real immaturity of intellect. And I also want to say that when they attacked the Dixie Chicks over their right to comment against the war, I went right out and bought their CD, and I enjoy it. So I think while some people would boycott them or not go to their concerts or whatever, others of us gave them financial support based on my rejection of the idea that they can't say calmly what they believe.
Right. I agree with you.
To me, it's the very same thing. To attack them for their comment that they were against the war and that they felt like we were lied to. I don't remember exactly what they said, but they objected to the war and questioned how we got there. That's like common knowledge today that's exactly what happened. You can watch C-SPAN and person after person from these organizations and advisory councils, they all admit that going to Iraq was a big mistake, a disaster for this country, terribly unfortunate, $2 trillion and over 2,000 lives poorly used. And I will not attack a person who calmly states their opinion, but I will not tolerate someone who attacks the person with vitriol and questions their patriotism, their faith, whatever it is. We wouldn't put up with that if they were attacking someone based on their race, I hope. We wouldn't attack, and I just don't think we should be tolerating it in any forum. That's not a rational debate.
Cindy, you got a great point. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Yeah, very much appreciated.
We have an emailer here. Caitlin, what's her current rank among the smartest women in the world?
Third.
Still third. She says, I have a lot of respect for Fred Keller, a lot more respect for Fred Keller than I do for Linda Schlegel-Culver. I disagree with Fred on almost every issue, but if you ask Fred where he stands on an issue, he will tell you. Culver, on the other hand, will not give you a straight answer. Her standard line is, quote, I will see what my constituents think and vote accordingly, unquote. That said, Keller and Culver vote the same like 99% of the time.
Right.
Now, isn't it a smart thing to say, I want to know what my constituents think as a representative? I mean, I agree with Fred. I like both of them. I mean,
think
Fred
it's a populist thing.
What? Don't you believe that's what you should be doing? A representative should represent? You would be the first person. If Linda or Fred went down there and voted entirely opposite from the way you feel, you'd think they were doing a poor job. Wouldn't you?
I already do.
All right. All right, well, you don't like the way they vote. But, I mean, if they are representing the views of the constituents, the majority of the constituents in their area, are they not doing what they were hired to do?
Well, I don't know. What's the definition of a representative? Are they supposed to just do in lockstep whatever
What does the word represent mean?
Is that it, or are they supposed to take in both sides of issues? For example, look at what their constituents feel. If that's true, marijuana would be legal in Pennsylvania, incidentally, but that's another topic.
Well, the question becomes whether or not you are a leader or a representative. You know, do you want some of both, I think, in some respects?
A leader, a lemming, a representative, or a follower? Which are you?
Well, you know the old expression, lead, follower, get out of the way. It's time for us to get out of the way.
Very true. Thank you so much for Joe coming in. We'll see you Tuesday.
See you then.
On the Mark has a webcam that serves as a 24-hour archive right at WKOK.com. But please, the best way to watch any archival video production is to go to the WKOK YouTube channel. Groninger Insurance, Lenape Solar, and Sunbury Motor Company are sponsors.